Oh, excellent. Thank you, Luke. So I'm going to give a tiny spiel, but as people roll in, if you want to throw your name, your organization, if applicable, and what part of the state you're zooming in from in the chat, that would be great. And also just for some quick housekeeping, please type your questions throughout the webinar in the chat and we will get to them at the end. And also please mute yourself if you are not currently speaking. Thank you. So welcome everyone. My name is Natalie Veldhouse and I am the current chair of the Iowa Hunger Coalition. We are a statewide membership-based organization that advocates for anti-hunger issues at the state level with a focus on root causes of food insecurity and priorities of Iowans experiencing hunger. We do this by lobbying on bills impacting SNAP and food pantries in Iowa. We send out action alerts and connect advocates with opportunities to contact their legislators or speak at subcommittee meetings. And we also build relationships with pantries and Iowans experiencing food insecurity across the state to inform our advocacy. So today we're here for IHC's 2022 Day of Action, kind of in lieu of a day on the Hill, just for, safety reasons and also so we can include as many folks across the state as possible. So just a little layout of what we're going to do in this hour. We are going to hear about the Iowa Hunger Coalition's legislative agenda. We're going to hear some updates from Aryn McLaren with the Healthiest State Initiative and their work to secure additional funding for Iowa's Double Up Food Bucks program. Then we'll hear about some of IHC's defensive SNAP work with Luke Elzinga with the DMARC Food Pantry network. And then we'll hear from Sheila Hansen with Common Good Iowa for some tips and tricks for reaching out to legislators on bills. And finally, we'll just give a few suggestions for action items we can all take today to defend SNAP and increase access to healthy food in Iowa through the Double Up Food Bucks program. Next slide, please. Thank you. But first, I wanted to ground us really quickly in why we advocate for SNAP in Iowa. Why is SNAP such a big deal in anti-hunger advocacy? And really, it's that SNAP is our largest and most effective nutrition program in the US, and it's one of our best tools we have to fight hunger in Iowa. Also, federal nutrition programs like SNAP deliver more than 19 times the food assistance as private charities are able to. So it's a really cost-effective way to make sure folks are getting food. Next slide, please. And I wanted to just really quickly recap some key items on our 2022 legislative agenda that we are most actively working on this session. The first two are protect Iowans' ability to put food on the table and make sure Iowans can access the help that they need. And these two are really about making sure that people who need SNAP are able to stay on SNAP and not get kicked off. And also making sure that folks who need SNAP are able to qualify and get on the program so that there aren't too many barriers that are keeping folks off of the program. This next one is kind of a catch-all, but we're looking out for bills that address the root causes of hunger and food insecurity in Iowa. And we're excited this session after we we were part of a momentum and a victory to secure sales tax exemption for food pantries, food banks, and hunger fighting organizations in Iowa last session. So we're excited to, again, this session be about something positive, something we want to see in the state instead of always trying to shut bad things down. So we are hoping to boost SNAP purchasing power while increasing access to fresh produce. And that's really through asking an appropriation for the Double Up Food Bucks program in Iowa. And while we're here, I just wanted to give a really quick plug that IHC is a membership-based organization, and our members help us craft our legislative agenda at our annual meeting every year. So if you'd like to help shape the future of our advocacy work, I would encourage you to sign up as an IHC member, as an individual, or as an organization, if that sounds like a fun thing you want to do. But it's also really important to me that I mention we do not want cost to be a barrier for anyone to join ever. So we do ask for an annual contribution, but seriously, that could be $1 or $5. And these funds help enable us to work with our contract lobbyist, who does great work at the Capitol, and to do outreach across the state with pantries and other anti-hunger organizations. Okay, so I'm going to stop talking now, and I'm going to pass things along to Aryn McLaren with the Iowa Healthiest State Initiative to tell us more about the Double Up Food Box program in Iowa. So thank you for Aryn for joining us this morning.
Thanks, Natalie. Thanks for having me. I am the Director of Healthy Incentives at Iowa Healthiest State Initiative. We're a 501c3 nonprofit that was originally formed in 2011 and began our work on nutrition incentives in 2016. Go to the next slide. Here I wanted to put my contact information up. Feel free to reach out to me directly. I am the lead for the Double Up Food Box program in the state of Iowa. And we have an easy way to learn more information, just doubleupiowa.org. I will also put this up at the end and I can throw it in the chat as well. Next slide. So Double Up Food Box currently is funded through a lot of private and local support, as well as some funding from the USDA and other federal grant sources. So I just like to thank our sponsors, because without them, none of the work that we've done through Double Up Food Box could have been possible to date. Next slide. So if you're not familiar with Double Up Food Box, I wanted to run through how it works for a participant. We have Double Up Food Box available at grocery stores, so Fairway, Hy-Vee, and food cooperatives. We have Double Up Food Box available at farmers markets, CSA, and direct farm stands. SNAP participant can shop for their produce and any other grocery items or items from the farmer's market as they normally would. When they buy fresh fruits and vegetables using their SNAP EBT funds, we match that spending 1-to-1 up to $10 per visit. At the grocery store, it's just done right at the cash register. So as they're making their payment using EBT, the register alerts the cashier to hand them Double Up Food Bucks. Double Up Food Bucks in Iowa currently look like a small piece of paper that front and back worth $1. So they can earn up to 10 of those per shopping visit. They can keep them and save them up to use at a later date, or they can turn around and use them on their next visit. They spend light cash for fresh fruits and vegetables. Next slide. So you can see here the different locations that we're at: Fairway, Hy-Vee, farmers markets, and food cooperatives. One really great aspect of this dynamic in Iowa that's pretty unique to us as far as being a SNAP incentive program in the nation is that because our currency can be used at all of these locations and we don't silo it within the retail grocery store, our farmers markets and food cooperatives are seeing a larger amount of Double Up Food Bucks being spent at their locations now that we have Fairway and Hy-Vee participating. So we know customers are going to Fairway and Hy-Vee, earning a Double Up Food Bucks, and maybe learning about their farmers market or food cooperatives and that they can use their SNAP EBT and Double Up Food Bucks there. So we are able to help those locations gain new customer base. Next slide. I just want to show the group how Double Up Food Box has been funded since we were originated in 2016. You can see there's a large gap there of state funding. So we really are, and we have over the past several years tried to educate our legislators on the importance of Double Up Food Bucks, and also let them know that their investment is very important to us. The Iowa Healthiest State Initiative can access federal USDA grants that match our private and state funding 1-to-1. So any state dollar that we can have allocated to the program, we have the opportunity to take that dollar and have the USDA match it with another dollar to support our program. So the state dollars are very important for us and a priority for our programs. Next slide. Since 2016, we have grown the program annually, both in the number of double up food bucks being spent in Iowa, but also the number of sites. You can see really with the onset of COVID-19 and the Feeding Iowa Task Force was able to pass along CARES Act funding to help support rapid expansion of double up food bucks throughout the state of Iowa. Our double up food bucks redemption grew exponentially over the past 2 years. Next slide. So you can see here that impact more in the numbers. So we were able to increase the number of families we were serving from roughly 5,000 to 85,000. And those are very conservative estimates at this point. And we do not require registration to participate in double up food bucks. So we're just using an algorithm to try to figure out an estimate of how many families we think we're impacting. And we try to make sure that's a very conservative estimate, so we're not overestimating. We do know the increased fruit and vegetable servings went from around 186,000 to nearly 3 million in 2021 for Iowa families participating in double up food bucks. Next slide. Besides for increasing nutrition insecurity or decreasing nutrition insecurity for Iowa families, we are also promoting that relationship between the local producers and Iowans. So as I mentioned earlier, we've seen sales increase for participating farmers markets, CSAs and farm stands year after year. And with the rapid increase in retail grocery in 2020 and 2021, we saw those numbers grow at the same rate that we were seeing the entire program growth. So we do know that farmers are making more money because of double up food bucks, and they have told us that themselves. Next slide. And the final third win of double up food bucks is that all the dollars are staying here in Iowa. So we work with 2 Iowa-owned grocery store businesses. We work with Iowa food cooperatives and local producers. We know by participating in a national study that every double up food buck dollar that's spent in Iowa has an economic impact of $1.90. And so last year in 2021, because of the double up spending in Iowa, we had a $4.3 million economic impact. I also want to point out that we run a very lean program as far as the operation and administration costs that go along with this. So of all the dollars that are allocated to double up food bucks programming, 90% of those go right back out the door and go towards incentives for Iowans to spend to buy fresh fruits and vegetables. Next slide. For 2022, we have 28 fairways, 28 Hy-Vees, which are brand new to the program, 6 Iowa food co-ops, and 30 plus farmers market CSA farm stands. You can scan this QR code to go to our Google map and find a location near you, or visit doubleupiowa.org. Due to current funding, we're kind of capped on our retail grocery, but we are still adding new farmers markets every year and hoping to add up to 10 this summer. Next slide. As I mentioned earlier, we do leverage USDA to help sustain this program in Iowa. In 2021, we were awarded a large scale grant for the next 2 years. That allows us to take any local and private dollars we've raised at the organizational level to the USDA and get a matching dollar from them. So this really is critical to the sustainability of the program in Iowa right now. It makes it even more important to really try to access those state dollars, because that is an eligible dollar for matching. And it helps us to make advancements in the program. So one of the things that we're going to do over the next 2 years using this grant is to take the double up food bucks from this paper voucher system to an electronic redemption system. And that will make it easier for the customers spending wise, but it will also make it easier for our partners, our farmers markets and vendors as far as the reporting and administrative work that they have to do to run the program. Next slide. So we are asking for a $1 million direct appropriation to support Double Up Food Bucks. And we believe that with $1 million, we can fill this map back in. So in 2021, you can see on the right, we were in almost 70 counties, and right now we're in 38. We'll be able to add around 65 retail groceries. That is $1 million or $1 million or more servings of fresh produce. And we think that using a very, again, conservative estimate, that would be around 30,000 more Iowa families participating in the program. Some things that you can do to help support our work to get the state appropriation is visit our Triple Win site on our doubleupiowa.org webpage. I'll make sure to put this link in the chat. There's some great videos there. You can see right on this screen, it shows you kind of the big Triple Win video. It walks through the increasing the health of Iowans, helping Iowa local producers and the economy. We also have a spot, if you go scroll down on the page, where you can choose your county that you live in, and a form letter will populate in your email, and you can send that off to your legislators expressing your support of Double Up Food Bucks and your support of an annual appropriation this year to restore Double Up Food Bucks back to its previous level in 2021. Additional access to other videos via like our YouTube page can be found on this site as well. So again, I wanted to pass along my information. Feel free to reach out to me directly or visit the webpage. And if you have questions, you can access the Iowa Healthiest State via our website. And I appreciate your support of Double Up Food Bucks. It is truly an important way for food insecure Iowans to leverage additional dollars and make sure that the food they're accessing is nutritious, feeding their families and helping to make sure that Iowans are healthy, happy, and productive. So appreciate your support. Thanks for listening.
Thank you so much, Aryn, for sharing that information, and encourage you all, that'll be one of our action items, to reach out to your legislators and let them know you support the Double Up Food Bucks program. My name is Luke Elzinga. I am the Communications and Advocacy Manager at the DMARC Food Pantry Network in Des Moines, and I also serve on the board of the Iowa Hunger Coalition. So today we thought we would start with something more positive, but unfortunately we do have some defensive kind of work to talk about as well as it relates to SNAP. But first, I kind of wanted to lay some of the groundwork for how SNAP has been operating during the pandemic. So this graph on the right of your screen here is from the USDA, and there have been kind of a number of changes to SNAP over the course of the pandemic, and I think this graphic maybe does a pretty good job of explaining some of those increases. So prior to the pandemic, and these are all national numbers too, I'll just say that. Prior to the pandemic, the average monthly benefit per person for SNAP was $121. Pretty early on in the pandemic, the USDA gave states the ability to issue emergency allotments. And really what that said was people could get the maximum allowable benefit for their household size. So if someone was getting the minimum benefit before, a lot of that's calculated based on income and different eligibility things. They plug into a formula to get that amount, but they could get the maximum benefit. So for a lot of people, that really helped them. There was a segment of people who were already getting the maximum benefit, and that didn't help them as much. And those are kind of the people lower on the income scale. So I do want to note that, but it really led to essentially a doubling of the average benefit for Iowans. Then there was a kind of temporary measure, a temporary 15% increase that was included in one of the federal packages. And then that was set to expire in October of 2021. And every year in October is when the USDA kind of updates the prices for the next year for SNAP benefits. And through an executive order and some kind of listing sessions they not only updated that price, but they kind of modernized how the Thrifty Food Plan, which is what's used to calculate SNAP benefits, is actually calculated. So they made some changes to kind of expectations around, people's available time to prepare foods, some of the price increases, and then I also included kind of the annual food price increase. So that kind of third section on the graph there shows when those expired, the temporary benefits expired, the effect of that Thrifty Food Plan reevaluation. And on average, it increased SNAP benefits by about 25% for folks. Those emergency allotments, the maximum benefits that have been issued by the USDA, are tied to a state's emergency health declaration. So with the recent news that Iowa will be lifting its emergency health declaration, that has implications for SNAP. Those will be going away. I still am waiting to confirm whether those will be reverting to kind of pre-pandemic amounts in March or in April, but that is coming very soon. And so kind of the farthest right piece on the graph, you'll see kind of post-pandemic what those amounts will be. Now, thanks to that reevaluation, there is going to be an increase compared to pre-pandemic levels, but it's still going to be quite a significant drop for a lot of people, depending on their household structure and income. A woman I work with will be going from $250 a month in benefits to $20 a month, which is the new minimum. So it's going to impact every household differently. But for some households, that's going to be a big hit to their food budget. And I think that for the average household will be losing about $95 a month in SNAP benefits. So while this is happening, we've also unfortunately been seeing some bills introduced in the Iowa House that would change eligibility for SNAP. So I'm going to kind of move into that now, but also wanted to provide a little background here. So going back a number of years, we've been seeing some harmful bills proposed targeting SNAP, not only SNAP, but other public assistance programs like Medicaid, temporary assistance for needy families, the Children's Health Insurance Program, and those have all kind of originated in the Senate. And historically, those bills, if they have passed the Senate, have been stopped in the House Human Resources Committee. So last year we saw Senate File 389 pass the Senate. And this year, that bill was actually broken out into 7 separate bills and was introduced into the House Human Resources Committee. So these bills would make changes to public assistance programs in Iowa. And specific to SNAP, they would change 2 kind of eligibility provisions for the program. So first, House Study Bill 508, which is, again, is one of those bills, one of the 7, would establish an asset limit for SNAP. And kind of our view, this would be the most harmful provision. It would set an asset limit of $2,500 for people on SNAP. There is a little bit higher of an amount for folks who are retired or have a disability. The folks kind of most at risk of losing benefits from that provision would be households with more than one vehicle. There is an exemption for one vehicle, but households with more than one vehicle, part of the value of that second or additional vehicles would count toward that asset limit. And then it also just really discourages emergency savings for households. So, in our view, this bill does not help lift people up out of poverty. It actually keeps them in poverty. Another provision that would actually change the eligibility requirements for SNAP is House Study Bill 505. It would require custodial parents to cooperate with the Child Support Recovery Unit to receive SNAP. So by definition, we kind of don't see a way that this bill would not end up taking food away from children. By definition, those are households with children in them. Wouldn't kick the children off the program, but would remove the adult, and that would impact the household's finances. And then the rest of the bills don't actually change the eligibility requirements for SNAP and other public assistance programs, but they kind of deal with implementing a real-time eligibility verification system for those programs, and gives DHS the option to work with a third-party vendor to establish those. And we really feel like these just, can add more hurdles to people who are on the program, whether that's things popping up and having to explain things during recertification processes, or maybe just people getting frustrated with the whole system and kind of throwing up their hands and saying, you know what, this isn't really worth it if I'm just going to be getting $20 in SNAP benefits, for instance. So those are kind of the pieces of these bills that we've seen so far. I do want to share a little bit of what I think is good news. Thanks to the work of advocates like you, some of these bills have stalled in subcommittees. And I know I've spoken with legislators who said they've been getting a lot of phone calls and emails, especially around the asset limit. I spoke with Representative Ann Meyer, who chairs the House Human Resources Committee, and she indicated that they will be kind of combining those pieces back into one bill, and some of the more harmful provisions will not be included. And I spoke with another representative who's on that committee who said that they did not believe the asset limit was going to be included in that bill. So I think it's a very good sign. Representative Meyer also said she was working with DHS to kind of make changes to the language where needed, which I also think is a good sign. But we have not seen the specific language of that bill yet. So I don't want to get my hopes up too much, but I think we have a couple good indications that some of those more harmful pieces will not be included in the bill. But we ultimately don't know the impacts of this legislation until we see that bill language and a fiscal note. And also, even if there's a version that passes the House without some of those harmful provisions, I think we really need to be on the lookout if that moves into the Senate for possible amendments and making changes to reinsert the asset limit and some of those other provisions. I think these bills have always originated in the Senate, and I think there is kind of more desire there to have some of these more harmful provisions. So very glad that the House is hopefully taking those out, but we'll still need to keep our guard up as that is in the Senate if it does pass the House, and making sure that those stay out of the bill. So that was just kind of a brief overview of what we're seeing. I wish I had more to talk about with the specific language, but at this point in time, things are kind of just up in the air until next week, and we see what's going to be included in that. And I'm sure Natalie will mention this too, but please visit the Hunger Coalition website and sign up for action alerts. I think that's the best way to stay the most up to date on these bills. And things will probably move really fast next week. It's funnel week, so things need to be passed out of committee by Friday. So it's very possible that we would see the bill language Monday or Tuesday, and they would hold a subcommittee meeting pretty quickly and then advance that to the full committee and vote it out. So I think things will move pretty quickly next week. So encourage you to like us on Facebook, sign up for our email action alerts to stay up to date on that. Here's my contact information, and I think that's it for me.
So now we have Sheila Hansen. I know she's setting up her screen because she's going to show us how to be a whiz in navigating the Iowa legislature's website, which in my opinion is not super friendly or intuitive. So thank you, Sheila, for joining us. She's from my home shop, Common Good, Iowa, and just has years and years of experience of engaging with the chaos at the Capitol. So thank you for joining us.
Thanks, Natalie, and thanks, Luke. And yeah, wish that there was better news all the way around also. But what I'm going to try to do today is help you to navigate the website a little bit, figure out how, what are some ways that you could contact your legislators, and hopefully stop some of the stuff that's happening, and maybe someday have some good stuff that actually does happen. What I'm going to do is just go through this website. So it's legis.iowa.gov. Some of you are probably pretty familiar with it. Some of you may not be. Let's just start with finding out who our legislators are, just some basic information. So if you go to the legislative homepage, this is what it will look like. And then just click on legislators right there. And then like, oh, I don't know who represents me, or you even have a friend or somebody that needs some help, just click on find your legislator. And right here, you will see there's opportunities to put an address, city name, zip code, county, school district. The best bet to get it really who does represent you directly is to put in your address. And so I'll just use my address as an example here. Search this. Here you'll see that Senator Kreinbrink is my state senator, and my state representative is Ann Meyer. You heard Luke talk about her. She's a pretty important representative in the work that we do as chair of the Human Resources Committee. And then there are other elected officials down below. We'll see if it'll let me get down there. You'll see our two United States senators, and then of course our own United State representative. Mine is Randy Feenstra. But if you're interested, okay, so now I know Senator Kreinbrink represents me and Ann Meyer represents me. Well, now I'm going to just click on Ann Meyer. And you'll see that there's a lot of information you can get here. You see that she sits on the Full Appropriations Committee. Again, she's chair of Human Resources. She sits on state government, transportation. She also sits on the budget subcommittee for Health and Human Services. And then these are some councils and boards that she sits on. So you can just maybe look and see, well, what are some of her interests? So you know that she's interested in Iowa and mental health. Also, Ann just happens to be a nurse, and so you know that she's interested in anything health related. You can see here's her legislative website or email. So if you want to email her, you would just click there. Her home email or her home address. Actually, if you want to send snail mail, legislators don't receive a lot of that anymore because a lot of the information comes via email or even contacts via others like social media, Facebook, Twitter. So good old fashioned letter or card in the mail is also helpful. A newsletter, and then the cell phone. You can call Ann on her cell phone at any time. She's will generally call you back. At least that's been my experience. And obviously there's the registered nurse as her occupation. There's an opportunity to see all the bills that she has sponsored, amendments, what bills she is floor managing. That just means that whatever she's running the bills on the floor. So she will be the one accepting and taking amendments. And then these are her subcommittee assignments, what bills she is happens to be working on. And I don't know what we should do for questions, but maybe Luke and Natalie, if you want to monitor if there's any questions that come up, because I can't really see what's happening. So that would be great.
Yep, we're watching the chat. Thanks, Sheila.
Thank you. And then I'm going to go back to my state senator. He gives a little bit more information in terms of all of his phone numbers. You'll see he gives his business phone, his cell phone, the Capitol phone. He tells you his occupation, again, investment advisor, the committees that he's on. He's the chair of the appropriations committee. That's the money committee. That's where all the money goes through. All the budget bills have to go through the appropriations. So he's a pretty powerful senator. And again, you can see what things you might be interested in and contacting him. Another is pretty easy. Down here, you will see there's additional information and subscribing to the newsletter. So if I click on this, it'll take me away from the legislative website, but I'll go and show you. This will take you to, I believe, the Iowa Senate Republicans website here, and you will be able to sign up for newsletters. I really do suggest that you sign up for any newsletters. Ann Meyer has a newsletter too, but it's harder to find hers. You have to go to her website. Most of these representatives and senators have campaign websites. And so if you go to their website, you can get their newsletters. And we'll go back home here. Now you know how to contact your legislator. What I would suggest when you write that email to your legislator, make sure that you put in the subject line where you are from. So if I'm writing to Ann Meyer, I will she knows who I am, so I don't have to do that anymore. But for my first time or after really starting to get to that relationship going, I put regarding childcare, whatever it might be, regarding food pantry, regarding healthcare, from Fort Dodge, question from Fort Dodge, wherever you are from, so that they know that you are a constituent, so they can read that. They'll know, okay, well, that's a constituent. I really want to read what my constituent has to say. And they'll more than likely, read that. They do care what other folks have to say, but not nearly as much as what their own constituents have to say. And the same if you happen to be contacting a chair of a committee or just wanting to share information, your knowledge or story, and it's not your own legislator, I would just put on there the subject line so that they know what the subject is, or whatever the bill is that you maybe are talking about, a specific bill. So on the front page, you'll get a lot of information. You'll know what's happening today in the Senate. Right here, they've already gavelled in, they're recessed. And then in the House, they've already adjourned for the day until tomorrow. They're caucusing. And then if you scroll down even further in the Senate, these will tell you all of the committees that are going on for the day and all of the subcommittees that are happening for the day. Because this is, we've had a couple of weird years with COVID, the legislature has adjusted some and tried to make it a little easier for folks to provide input so they don't have to make that trip to the Capitol. Our organization, Common Good Iowa, has made the choice to actually stay away from the Capitol as much as possible. We're doing a lot of our advocacy via email and phone calls and such. We will have some presence in the next few weeks, but not an everyday presence like we have had in the past. And that it's not ideal, obviously. But what they've done in the Senate is they've allowed you to watch Senate committees that are happening by just clicking on live stream. So any committee that is happening in the Senate will be available to watch by clicking on live stream. So you'll know at 10 o'clock, Labor and Business is convening and they'll be available to watch. However, one of the things that you may find out is that a lot of committees will go to caucus right away, which means that they'll divide up into their Republican caucus and their Democratic caucus, and they'll go their separate ways and talk about whatever bills are on the agenda for that particular meeting. So you might click in at 10:02 or something and you think, okay, what's happening? There's nothing happening. They're in caucus. It does make things a little bit harder to follow because you don't really know when they are coming back from caucus. And I haven't figured out how to really keep track of that in all of my years of doing this from afar. Unless you have a legislator on the inside who you can ask, can you text me when you're coming back? And again, human resources, the same thing. And again, this is just the Senate. This is what the Senate is doing. In the Senate, for subcommittees, they're allowing you to chime in via Zoom. And so I'm going to click on agenda. And you'll see that this subcommittee that's meeting, that met at 9:10 over cybersecurity. You could join them via Zoom. So there's the Zoom link and the information that you need to join via Zoom. And in the Senate, you are allowed to testify via camera, via Zoom. You just have to raise your hand or they'll call on you to testify, and you'll get an opportunity to testify on a bill in that subcommittee via Zoom. Now in this House, because this can't be easy and do things the same way, the House is doing things via WebEx and not Zoom, and they don't have a link on the top for you to just find out when a committee is. So I'm going to click on Judiciary at 1 o'clock. There will be a camera there, and then you will click on the link there to join this subcommittee via Zoom or via WebEx. And in the House, you're not allowed to testify on camera. You can submit comments over here, but you're not allowed to talk unless you're in person. If you go to any of the subcommittees in person, you can speak on any of the bills. Then for subcommittees, makes it a little bit more difficult. You click on the subcommittee down here. So there's a subcommittee. I'll say there's one at noon that I want to go to. How do I get to it? Do I just click on education? Nope. I don't know how. How do I get to? You think that's what you would do, right? Nope. You have to go to the Senate and House tab here. Go over to House. And go over to subcommittees on bills, find daily, and then you will click on whichever subcommittee you want to view. So let's say I want to go to this one at noon. We'll click on that and it will let me know where I need to go for the WebEx. And then again, you can do your comments. So just click on comments, it'll take you over here and you will be able to submit some comments. Any questions? Good time for a pause. And I don't know how much time I have left.
I think we're doing good on time. I don't see any questions in the chat right now. So if anyone has a question, feel free to toss that in there. I actually, sorry, not to be annoying, Sheila, but I have a question or two for you. If you don't mind.
Yes.
One was just a quick thought and something I've noticed in making comments, like you were just showing, if we're unable to make it to the Capitol, but we want to write in some kind of public comment. In my experience, whenever I write one of those, I take what I wrote and save it in like a Word doc, because I've noticed like if it's on a sub and the sub gets canceled or something funky happens, sometimes it seems like the comments like kind of disappear. And I remember I felt like I really wrote a juicy one time and then it like poofed away. So that was just a quick comment, but I really appreciate your insights on all these pieces. I always learn something new. And I was just wondering, when reaching out to a legislator about a bill that you don't want to get passed, in your experience, is there kind of an approach that is more effective than others? Like, would you email your legislator and say like, hey, this bill sucks? Or, do they like stories? Do they like data? Like kind of what?
Yeah, probably all of the above, but stories are going to be most effective, especially coming from constituents. They will reach out and get data and other things from folk, lobbyists or other folks too. But I think a story is really the most effective way. If you have data to back it up, obviously add that in. And I think the other thing that you said with, so I didn't lose my train of thought. When you said to save your comments, I also will email my comments to the subcommittee members. So if you have, you've submitted them just to make sure. So you'll see like on this bill, House Study Bill 508, you're talking about the eligibility supplement. In this case, would have submitted comments to generic, I can never say that name, Bennett and Meyer. Those three would have, I would have sent comments via email with, the House Study Bill. And I think just saying, I have some concerns about this bill. This is the impact that it'll have on me, on my family, on my community. And state what's the impact going to be. And then ask them, we'd appreciate you voting no or not moving this bill out of subcommittee. If you want more information, I'm happy to talk to you. Can we get on a call or a Zoom or, happy to meet for coffee back home sometime. Those sorts of things I think are good. The other thing that I would do is always follow up with the legislator. If you've had any kind of a contact with them, just make sure there's follow-up. Sometimes I will leave some information out of things to just say, oh, I want to just follow up on this. I found some more information or thought you might find this newsletter interesting. That also helps with ongoing relationships with them. If you have articles where you see they're quoted in your hometown newspaper, send them. I'll often do that and say, hey, I saw this article on food pantries, or, I saw you visited a food pantry. That was really great. Thanks for doing that. Food pantries, how important food pantries are to our community. Those sorts of things. It also just, did I say remember to say thank yous? If you get remember a thank you. Obviously, they're not always you're not gonna want to send a thank you if they're doing things you don't want. I have relationships with some legislators who we don't always see eye to eye, and we've agreed to disagree on some things. But I'll still, we'll find something to thank them about if I can. But there will be some where you just aren't going to, find some things where you agree on, and that's just going to be the way things are. That's what voting is for, and going to the polls is about, and elections are about. If you have a business or some sort of if you wanted to invite them into your business, I don't know who's exactly on the phone, it's important to do that, have them tour. Also just meeting for coffee. In Fort Dodge, we have something called Eggs and Issues. It's the last Friday of every month. All of our legislators get together in the area, and they meet and have a community forum. So it's open to the public, and you can go and ask questions of your legislators. Those you can generally find in your legislators newsletter, on legislative website, on your legislator's website. Sometimes they're published on some of your, I don't know if Luke collects that information, but some lobbyists or some organizations collect those and share those out to folks. And letters to the editor. You know, a letter to your hometown newspaper is always appreciated. It shows that people are watching and paying attention back home. And it also educates the public on issues that they may not have been aware of it. And you're educating other people and maybe getting them excited to contact their own legislator, or, you know, like, wow, I didn't know this was happening. How can I help? And then maybe one last thing that I'll share is just important publications. You can always sign up for subscriptions. So if you go over to publications, click on subscriptions, and there are all kinds of subscriptions that you can sign up for. Especially you can sign up to watch bills. Oops, that's the wrong. Committee subscriptions. All of these are ones that apparently I had been subscribed to. But if you're following any of like what's happening in human resources, what's happening in economic growth, any of those, you'll get updates from the committees. And then there's be some legislative subscriptions. You can get the daily debate calendar, weekly calendar, so on. You'll see all kinds of good stuff here that you can sign up for.
Great. Thank you so much, Sheila. And if folks, you know,
Quit.
go ahead. What was that, Sheila?
No, I said I'll quit now while I'm ahead.
Cool. If you know, as we're about to wrap up shortly, but if you have another question for Sheila, Aryn, Luke, whoever, don't be afraid to toss those in the chat. And so thanks again, Sheila, Aryn, and Luke. Let's see if we can get our fancy PowerPoint back up. Here we go. Here we go. Okay, so I am just going to touch briefly on some action items that we kind of brainstormed now that we've, you know, talked about, you know, SNAP, why it's important in Iowa, you know, the kind of legislative advocacy IHC is doing this session with Double Up Food Bucks and trying to keep bad things from happening to SNAP, you know, like what can we do about them? So I'm going to share some action items that you can engage with today. Don't worry about taking furious notes on this slide. All of this information will be provided in a follow-up email shortly after this webinar. And we're also not asking you to do all of these things by any means, but if you feel particularly called to one or two of them, go ahead and pursue those. But just like Sheila had just mentioned, well, here, I'm sorry, I'm skipping around, but okay, just kidding. I'm gonna back up for a second. So like Luke mentioned earlier, we have really great IHC action alerts. If you're not already signed up for those, I would recommend you do that. Luke does such a great job at sending out timely information about bills impacting SNAP and food pantries, and they have contact information for legislators, talking points. So if you aren't signed up, please do that. You can contact your legislators. Like Luke said, it's a little awkward right now because we don't have that new bill language around some of these SNAP pieces this session. So if you want to contact your legislators and just let them know that you are in support of the SNAP program in Iowa and the impact that it has in your community, that's a great place to start to build that rapport and let your legislator know that that's an issue that you care about and that you're following. You can also, we'll have some materials. You can share some stuff on social media and across your networks. That will be in the follow-up email. And like Sheila was saying, writing a letter to the editor, if that's something that is interesting to you. They're usually about 200 to 300 words, and you can reach out to your local paper. They have specific guidelines And this is really an opportunity to talk about, why SNAP matters to you and why it should matter to other Iowans, why we need to protect SNAP, and also make fruits and vegetables more widely available through the Double Up Food Bucks program. You could also, I don't know if you're feeling fancy, you could record a video testimonial and share, or I don't know, make a TikTok. I personally don't know how to do TikToks, but I guess younger people are doing that. You can also check out IHC's SNAP map for more specific SNAP usage data for your county, and include that information when you're engaging with legislators or talking about that impact in your community. It's always a good idea if you're able to make a financial donation to your local food pantry or anti-hunger organization. A lot of times they're able to make dollars go really far, whether through partnerships with food banks and other organizations. Or finally, you could take the SNAP challenge for the day, which would mean making sure you're only spending $8 total for all 3 of the meals that you eat today. So those are, some ideas to get you started and thinking about, okay, well, I just listen to these folks talk for an hour. What am I going to do about making sure Iowans have the food that they need? Here's some ideas. Next slide, please. I think we just want to open things up for questions or any feedback. Let me see. We might have some stuff in the chat. Ooh, we have links in the chat. Let's see. So, sorry, I'm just getting caught up in the chat. So we have a question on, is there any expected expansion by Hy-Vee to include the Metro? I see they assist with Double Up bucks only in the rural areas. And let's see. Aryn said Hy-Vee would only add all Metro locations to avoid confusion. At this point, let's see, sorry, my chat box is too small. At this point, we don't have the budget to support that many stores, which is why we're asking for money. Let's see. Yeah, prioritizing the biggest statewide reach with the dollars we have. So yeah, just an extra plug for asking for that appropriation for Double Up Food Bucks. And Luke put in the chat that SNAP map. So yeah, if anyone else has any other questions, we really hope that this session was useful. We usually try to have surveys that gauge, whether this was a good use of your time, but really don't feel shy to reach out to us at the Iowa Hunger Coalition Gmail account. If there's any way we can support you, if you're like, I want to write a letter to the editor, but I've never done that before, how do I do that? Or like, I don't know how to do TikToks or whatever, we can try to support you in the ways that we can. And also, I guess in lieu of, we don't have a survey, but if you have any feedback like, hey, this webinar was really helpful, or like, this was a complete and total waste of my time, just let us know, because we want to make these webinars as helpful as we can for folks. So with that, I just wanted to thank everyone for being here today and thank our members and folks who are contacting their legislators and doing anti-hunger work across the state. Look out for our follow-up email to this webinar and reach out to us if we can support you, or if IHC is kind of a newer group to you and you would like to think a little bit more about how we could partner with your organization in some way, just hit us up. So thank you. We're getting thanks in the chat. Thanks. So yeah, have a great rest of your morning, and let's hope that we get some good news next week with this bill language around SNAP. All right. Oh, thank you. Thank you for your thank yous. Okay. Great. All right. Bye, everyone.